What is good, y'all? This is the Divine Analytical Empress, and I am back again after an extra long hiatus in these YouTube streets with yet another video. So for the people that have been subscribed to me for a while now, I thank you for still being subscribers. I literally thought when I was coming back on here that, my numbers would go back down to zero, but very fortunate that the support is still being shown, whether or not I have been posting consistently or not, which I haven't for almost 2 years now. But in this season, in this new year, with this new me, I am trying to do things a little differently. I am trying to hold myself accountable and to step into that calling that I know that I was called for, this industry that I know that I'm meant to be in, which is to help people through some way using my voice. So here I am back, and for all of you that are returning subscribers, y'all may have noticed that my previous videos had me sitting in front of a camera. This is not that season. This is not her this year. This year I'm going more for podcast style type of videos. So there won't be too much going on, but a lot of audio. In this particular video, I want to go ahead and recite a poem that I had wrote a few years ago, actually. And I've clearly never read it out loud to anyone else, but I will be reading it to you all. And maybe there's going to be a message somewhere in there after. Maybe there's going to be a little rant. You never know what's going to happen. But what I was doing before was somewhat me, but it wasn't truly authentically me. And I wasn't clearly being as transparent as I should be. This time around, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and go in. Whatever comes out, comes out. There's no malicious intent with anything that I say. I'm just going to go ahead and do things the way that I would do, like I'm talking to one of my friends or my family members or my son. So if y'all are still here after this long ass intro, I'm going to go ahead and recite a poem that I wrote, as I stated earlier. And after that, we're going to go ahead and get into it. Okay? So, let's get it. They say that time heals all wounds. I say that shit's a lie. Time is just an excuse if you think not dealing with it makes it alright. Pushing pain aside, hoping it'll subside, just gives you time to find another place within you for that shit to hide. Pain might be painful, to feel it will hurt, but no healing comes from denial, and those wounds will eventually fester after a while. To human is to love, and to feel tells us we're alive. But how does one feel if all we do is pile shit on top of all the things we're meant to heal? Putting band-aids on wounds that need stitches is like calling people who think differently witches, and thinking you can turn off your emotions with switches and that happiness comes from riches. But shutting down makes us no more human than the devices and screens that we stare at, and we are no more than a code in the matrix programmed to be asleep, when our education and our resources say we should be past all that. I guess it's easier to take the blue pill, to have no control over our will, to continue working our asses off just to pay the bills, to stay stuck in our own robotic routines till it is our sense of self that we kill. Autopilot or not, it still takes work to run on a hamster wheel, so you might as well put in the work to feel and to deal so you can truly heal. Then time heals our wounds will actually be real, and that shit'll no longer be a lie. Because there'll no longer be an excuse, and now you're alright. Because you didn't push the pain aside, so now the hurt subsides. And now when you go back within, there is no place for that pain to ever again hide. Well, if you made it this far, thank you for listening to my poem, my intro. I appreciate you still being here. And for those of you that are still here, I hope you all enjoyed this little spoken word session that I just did. Poetry has always been a hobby of mine. It's been a way for me since I was a little kid to be able to express myself and to be able to be vulnerable. Because the way that I was brought up, we weren't allowed to show any form of vulnerability. So, in secret, I would write my poetry, and so that it wouldn't be found, I would throw them away after. But recently, within the past few years, I've been picking it up back again because I never felt inspired to do it for reasons that maybe I'll discuss on this channel later on in future videos. Maybe I won't. Who knows? But let me go ahead and give you a little backstory on the reason why I did this poem in the first place. So, I've obviously heard this saying majority of my life, and even as a little kid, that shit never made sense to me. It never made sense to say that that time heals all wounds, or time heals all. Even little me with comprehension issues still understood that was a crock of shit. But the reason why I decided to write this poem, the topper, I guess you could say, was just last year. A relative of mine that I had cut off and haven't spoken to, had zero contact with for about 3 years, did their own investigative work and ended up finding out where I lived. And they showed up at my door. So myself was like, open the door, don't open the door. But I said, you know what? I love this person, even though I've had to love them from afar. Let me just go ahead and say hi. So I open the door, we get into a conversation. We start talking about basically just catching up on things, but obviously, there's not a lot being said because I no longer do things and operate the way that I used to since I started my healing journey. And apparently this person was waiting for me to be the way that I used to be, so much of an open book where I just say anything. And we kept it real, like you my neighbor from across the street or something. And so eventually we got into talking about the past and things of that nature. And this person brings up, I guess, time heals all wounds. Now, mind you, I haven't spoken to this person for a few years. And already, when she popped up at my house and started talking to me, this, that, and the third, the way that she was speaking reminded me exactly why, or one of the many reasons why I cut this person off a long time ago. Nothing had changed with this person, but for myself, I know a hell of a lot has changed for me. And, my discernment level heightened, thank God. And I was able to see through the lies that was being spewed out of this person's mouth. But that right there, that same day, made me go back into my house and write this poem down. And it's only because exactly what the poem says, time heals all wounds. That's a crock of shit. You know what I mean? I have seen three generations of my family do the same things over and over and over on both sides of my family. Absolutely zero changes. Absolutely zero changes to their lifestyle. All of these people turning the other cheek, accepting bad behavior, very aggressive, very mean, gossipy, and we can go on, abusive, on and on and on and on and on. We can go on and on, but we're not going to do that in this video. And from the time that I was a little girl, I started building up all of these experiences right up here in the dome. And I realized that no matter what time of the day, week, year, decade, or generation that we're in, I just kept seeing more and more of the same shit. Same shit, different day. It was always like that, and it's always been like that. Myself was tired of that same narrative. So there's no way that time heals all wounds, because if we keep passing the same things down to the next generation, to the next generation, and the next generation, and nobody in any of these generations steps up, stakes their claim and says no more, of course everything is going to stay the same. Time won't heal shit. The only thing that passes is time. But if you're still the same person with the same actions, the same demeanor, the same attitude, I don't know what else time will do other than you wasting your life away, leaving this earth for who knows what lifetime. Learning what? We all have choices as people every single day. Every single last one of us got several choices to make every single day, from the smallest things to the biggest things. That's never going to change. And if somebody truly wants to change, that can happen at any given day of the night, year, whatever. You can wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and say, this is it, I'm done with this particular whatever the hell it is, and that's it. Then the work comes in. It's obviously hard work to give up something that you've done a specific way for a long time, but that's the whole point. Anything in this life takes work. So assuming that because time has passed, that things change, that people change, that heals wounds, that's a lie. And that's just pretty much a little rant what I'm trying to say. But the whole point is that healing is a lifelong process. But in order for that to be a lifelong process in the first place, you gotta start. Every single last one of us has all of those answers within us. There is nothing that we have to look outside of us. But if we do have that money, and we do have other resources that are available to us, like therapy and things of that nature, that is excellent starts. For me, my bank account said, stay your ass at home. We're not doing anything. So I had to rely on a lot of meditation. And to be honest, for me, it was tarot readings, something that I strongly disbelieve because of my church culture, religion upbringing, that told me that that's the devil's work and this, that, or whatever. But let me tell you something. In my hour of need, when nobody, as always, didn't show up, I was led to a tarot reading one day, and I didn't even want to listen to it. But let me tell you something. I have always had questions that needed answers for so many years that nobody could answer. They always told me I was too young, or I didn't know what I was talking about, or why the hell it always got to be so deep like that. That's not an answer. That's you answering my question with another question. But anyway, I digress. Let me stay focused. So anyway, I listened to this tarot reading. And automatically from that first few minutes, I never heard so many confirmations and things explained in ways that I could never make sense, and that no one else in my life, from people who are well off, all the adults in my life, these people that supposedly have kids upon kids and degrees and all of these things under their belt, that opened up my mind, opened up my world to, my God, I don't even know, a whole bunch of shit. It was like, everything is so expansive. It's so much more expansive than we could ever imagine or fathom. And all of a sudden, things start clicking in my head. To where I was like, obviously I was led there divinely. There's no doubt about that. But just because we're led to something doesn't mean that we heed the call, so to speak. Am I right or am I right? So it was because of that I started really, really sitting there evaluating things, evaluating my life, evaluating situations, because the only reason why I was led to this in the first place, obviously, number one, because it was meant to happen. But a few years ago, when, the C-19 thing was blowing up all over the world and everything, I ended up being practically bedridden, and I still suffer with a lot of pain today in my body, but it is nowhere near where it was. Now, I was going through a hell of a lot, and going through at the same time, because I feel like it was a forced intervention. And I'm pretty sure a lot of you can understand what I mean by forced intervention. It was like, bitch, you ain't still doing what we told you to do. We gave you all the clues. You're not doing it. But this is what it is. Now it's time. And now you have no choice. See, the thing about me is that I never sat down and stayed still for not 1 millisecond. I wasn't brought up that way. Rest is for the dead. Rest is for the weak. Rest is for the lazy. None of that stuff equated in my childhood. So obviously in my adulthood and having a family of my own, I threw that shit into overdrive, and we're not going to even go into that and all that drama. But it did a hell of a lot of harm than it did good in my life. So the only way the universe could get my ass to pay attention was to literally put me down. And that was one of the hardest things still to date that I have had to deal with, on top of what some would call a spiritual awakening, if I can get my words, a spiritual awakening, or a dark night of the soul. I'm going to call it both. I call it a combination of the two. I am no expert in any of these esoteric matters. If anybody wants to comment below what it is, it's cool. But, at the end of the day, at that particular thing, the opinions won't matter. You know what I mean? So, because of that, I had to relive every traumatic experience and painful event that has happened in my lifetime, in this lifetime, over and over and over again, with all of the people that I had in my circle that were in my longest standing relationships, the people that I was loyal to, that I doormatted myself to, that I was going so hard for, and that I loved with all of them. And, I'm not just talking about I had to sit there and go through and watch it like we're watching a movie. No. I had to feel every last one of those things. And so when I wrote that, you have to feel, you have to feel to deal, and eventually you can heal. That's not the correct words. We're not going to go back to it. You can go listen to it if you want to. But that was what it was. We weren't in a lot of cultures, but more specifically in a Polynesian culture, in an Asian culture, feelings and vulnerability and all of that stuff, they're not meant to be expressed. And I was in a household that believed the same thing and abided by and embodied that same belief system. And so when I had to sit there for a year and a half going through muscle spasms day in and day out, not getting any sleep, losing hair, going to the bathroom every seemingly few seconds, having vertigo, and a whole bunch of other stuff that was happening at the same time, I had to also deal with this. And this is not something that you could sit over there and close your eyes tight or close your ears or get it out. I mean, that shit was coming in full blast. Full blast, full blast. It would not stop. I had to feel every last one of those things, but I am grateful for that, because at the end of the day, I understand that had I had not, I would still be in the same position that I was before. And to be honest with you, and this is a trigger warning, I probably would be here today, because right before that thing happened, I was on my 9 trillionth bout of depression. And it's something I've had to deal with since I was a kid. And I had to deal with it silently. It was one of them silent battles that I had to deal with on my own. That felt like the last time. Now, if y'all know what I'm talking about, then y'all know what I'm talking about. But that seemed to me like the last time. And all of a sudden this happened. And the C-19 is blowing up all over the place. And everything is going crazy. But I'm stuck in my own little world in a room, staring at a ceiling, could barely move, dealing with all of these things. But then when I finally surrendered to what the universe was trying to tell me, I mean, obviously we should know by now that the universe is working for us and things aren't happening to us. They're happening for us. It is our perspective that decides what we're going to believe or not. So when that happened, I was able to finally feel all of these feelings. Let me just tell you, it was to that point when I was little, because I used to get, and this is another trigger warning, so maybe not your video, but I used to get beat every day of my life, in every way possible, but more specifically, I'm talking about physically in this particular time, or at this particular time, excuse me. It was to that point, by the time I was in like the 3rd or 4th grade, I had completely disconnected from myself, from my body. It was a joke. My brother used to say, he used to call me Amistad, and he used to tease me because he said that I had a blank look on my face when I used to get beat down. But to be honest with you, I didn't feel it. Like I disconnected myself from that pain. Like pain, not good, don't feel it, cut it off. So when all of this happened, and I know it's a long ass story, if you're still here, wow, congratulations to you, because I am a scenic route explanator. Is that a word? We're going to say it anyway. I am one of those people. Some people, they could do things in like 5 milliseconds, get straight to the point, and that's awesome. Me, not. That's not how I do things. So anyway, I had to feel every last one of these things. And it was only because I was able to feel it that I was able to actually sit over there after I surrendered to the universe, literally threw up a metaphorical white flag because I couldn't lift up my actual arms because they felt like they were 5,000 pounds, and I wasn't able to really freely move my body. I'm talking about I needed help to shower was how freely I couldn't move my body at that time. So it was only then when that happened that I began to see what God was trying to show me. And when I started seeing these situations more objectively, I went through certain stages of this healing process, which is obviously going to be different for everybody, but, you're blaming the people, then you're blaming yourself, and then you're blaming God. You're blaming, you were playing the blame game before you began to start taking on the responsibility for the role that you played in that actions, and then for obviously getting to the part of forgiving oneself before forgiving the others that played a role, in the fuckery. And so when I did that, I began to notice how seemingly quickly that my life was changing. That the things that I entertained before, I didn't want to entertain them anymore. And so I started making decisions and things. It started off real subtle because I was still holding on what you would call the ego. I'm not going to go into that because I don't know shit about it, really. Trends and this, that, or whatever can say whatever they want, but at the end of the day, you're still going to have a school of thought that believes this and a school of thought believes that. In my eyes, I'm not into any of that type of shit, so it doesn't apply to me. So I was able to start doing all of that healing, and I was able to make decisions that, to be completely honest with you, I knew I had to make. A lot of us, we know we're intuitive as hell. We see the red flags, right? But being an empath, first and foremost, what someone call a quote-unquote weak empath, you end up, and the life and the choices and the situations and the environment that you're placed in and the way that your upbringing was, a lot of us end up being doormats for people, and we end up being people pleasers. Check, and check. Okay, hello, welcome to my past life, past version of myself. But we are here in 2024, and this is a new season. And I sat there and I had to evaluate all of these things. And I knew, but let me tell you, if you know, then you know. What I couldn't do was let go. See, in my mind, since I was a little girl, I have always been a mama bear. I have always had to raise my brothers. I had to take care of the kids and the adults. I was always the mediator. I was always the nurturer. I was always the protective one. And because of my earlier traumatic experiences, more specifically with the kids, I obviously took them under my wing and tried to keep them as safe as possible. Because my childhood told me that there are major dangers in this world, and it's not too far away from your direct vicinity. And so when all of that happened, it was like things started making sense. That all of a sudden, I started getting a little bit more and more courageous. I started breaking away from that because I was so loyal. I have always been loyal to my family and to the people that I love. And anyone that I said that I loved, whether you were blood related to me or not, I considered you family. So that means I'm holding it down for you. I'm going hard for you in these streets. I'm praying hard for you. I'm always there for you. I'm showing up for you in this, that, and the third. But, it's not like I didn't understand or know or see that the shit wasn't reciprocated, And it took all of that shit to make me finally say, oh my God, things gotta be different. Things gotta be different. And, long story longer, this is the reason why I'm here. And so this is the reason why I wrote what I wrote in the poem. And maybe some of y'all can relate with me on that. You're more than welcome to get into my comment section and leave me or drop me a line or whatever, your thoughts on the situation. But as I said earlier, this is who I am. This is the way I say things. This is the way it's going to go. And when I was doing my previous videos and everything, I always felt like we're in these YouTube streets. I got to watch what I say. I got to be mindful of everybody. I got to be mindful of this, that, or whatever. Bullshit. And that's not who I am. This right here is who I am. This is the same way I would speak to anybody that I know. Anybody that I feel comfortable around. These are the things that we would be talking about. This would be the subject matter. Well, at least some of it. Anyway, hell, a smidge of it, because there's so much subject matter to go over, right? So, yeah, I just wanted to go ahead and let you guys in on that. You let me know what you think. Go ahead and, like I said, get in the comment section. Drop a like. Subscribe if you haven't, and I just want to go ahead and end off the video by saying I hope that all of you have an amazing day or night, wherever it is, wherever you are listening to me from. And y'all stay blessed, okay? All right. Peace.